This is a new series that I'm planning to do because from the feedback I got from my last video, it seems that a lot of you swing trade. So I've actually been debating on branching out into crypto or Forex, but now that the dust has kind of settled with my whole Schwab situation, I've decided to take my talents and double down into options and swing trading. Now, swing trading is something I've always done, just very lightly. If I had to put a number on it, I would say 85% of my trading activity comes from day trades and then 15 from swings. But now that's more like 70-30, and I do want to get better and more active in my swing trading. You also know I've been testing out a bunch of different platforms for my options since I can't use Toss anymore to execute trades. And I finally decided to just use E-Trade for that as well. It's not that it's the best, it's just something I'm familiar with. And I already use 3 different platforms, and I'm just done with the idea of having to use 4. So without further ado, this is my game plan for the trading week of October 27th. Let's get into it. As a reminder, this is not financial advice or recommendations on any stocks. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, so the first thing I always do is go over the broad market, starting with the NASDAQ ETF, the Qs. So last time we had this discussion, I mentioned that it's really hard to find a top in the market when price is just grinding up against a rising 20 like that. Now, when we got that big bearish day off of tariff news, I mentioned that that may do it, cause some sort of top. I don't know if it was long term or some sort of temporary top, but let's see if we get some follow through and what that looks like first. And we didn't get much follow through. So we basically ended up chopping around, holding and recovering, getting back over that 20. And I thought it was going to be some sort of temporary top, but I didn't think it would be this temporary. So we made all-time highs on Friday, closed as an arranged bar, but all-time highs regardless. SPY, same thing. So all-time highs. Now IWM is a bit behind, or one could argue that it's ahead because that actually was the first to recover and make new highs. But now we're kind of sandwiched in between the prior highs and a pivot underneath. So heading into this week, what I'm expecting from the market. So the Qs, let's peek at the hourly chart here real quick. So into the Friday close, the market got a sell off. My thinking is if the market continues to sell off from Friday's close action, then I think we have to Thursday's low to retest. And if we continue to sell off from there and break through that, I think we have to around 613 on the Qs that it could retest. Other than that, given that we do not sell off, I'm more leaning towards neutral to staying bullish, just sticking with the overall picture here. So short term, if market sells off Monday morning, SPY same picture to retest Thursday's low. And then if we still continue to sell off, then 674 would be the price target area I would look for on the SPY. IWM, same thing. This one, not too far from Thursday's low. So to 249 or so, and then from there to maybe 248. So anywhere into that rising 20 on the hourly is what I would expect if the market prints a short-term bearish move here. But other than that, neutral to bullish this week. All right. Now, in terms of the sectors itself, individual sectors, let me go back to the daily chart here. Starting with the basic materials. So this one recovered pretty well, held up on that 200 on the daily, pretty strong. A lot of support on the weekly. Now it's taking back the 20 on the daily there. So holding up and looking bullish, but we are still under that 20 on the weekly. So may cause some choppiness this week out of the basic material sector. Communication sector, last time we had the discussion, I said we got the double top and pull back into support off of a wide range bar. So we could look, or I could look for long opportunities there. And we got the bounce and seems to be holding not quite as well as the basic material. Basic material, you could see we're holding above that 20 MA, whereas the XLC is kind of chopping inside of it. So we do have a weekly buy setup that has triggered, but I don't know if we'll get follow through. I would at least want to see it take out, what is that, 116. And then especially if it takes out 117, then that I see that buy setup on the weekly follow through. If we don't, then that buy setup may fail. Now, energy had a breakout failure and looked weak because I saw that the monthly sell setup kind of triggered. Wasn't too sure if that monthly was going to lead and follow through with it because it was into a lot of support there. Seems to be holding up really well on that 200 on the weekly, and it held. And now it kind of recovered back over that 20, but a bit broken on the monthly into an area of resistance. So, not too sure what the energy will do this week. May cause some choppiness. And the financial sector rolled over, having a little bit of a hard time recovering at the moment on that daily chart there. XLI Industrial recovered really well and looking really strong for a breakout this week. Now, we do have to break out, but it's a breakout on all time frames and looks good higher. XLI. Technology, of course, leading. I think we have Apple and Meta reporting this week. So we'll see what goes on with those guys. But new highs. And then the XLP, consumer staples. So this one is kind of sandwiched in between a rising 20 and a 200 on the daily there. So it's kind of inside of that sandwich. And then the 20 into a declining 20 on the weekly. So it may have some choppiness this week also on the consumer staples. I feel real estate coming back, really looking really strong. So this one was leaning in, looked like it was trying to break down, but held up and now back up into that base where it was kind of fell off from. And look at that weekly, that big bearish breakdown attempt got negated and now retesting that base is high. And that monthly looks extremely strong, big bottoming tail there and holding up on that rising 20, a lot of bottoming tails. So real estate looking bullish heading into the end of the year, actually. Interesting. XLU utility, I was looking for a top on that and we got a top. Now doing a buy setup. That's triggered. Do we continue? I don't know if we'll retest the prior highs, but looks like XLU could get a bounce this week. And then the healthcare sector. So this one we were talking about had the breakout, now pull back, and now little buy setup on that rising 20, breaking out of that 200. Just overall bullish picture. And what I was looking at was the INO that week, but this one never ended up breaking out. So this one never triggered, but healthcare, pretty bullish, broke out. And then finally, the XLY, consumer discretionary. So this one also recovered pretty well. So weekly buy setup, and then now holding over that 20. Now into an area of resistance above, but recovered pretty well and looking bullish overall. So industrials looks interesting for a breakout this week, and then just real estate. That looks really interesting heading into the end of the year. So now let's get into kind of the individual stocks that I'll be eyeing this week. I already did all of my scanning. I separated it for the bullish list and the bearish list. All right, let's take a look. So starting off with the bullish list, I kind of separated them by sector. So Val has like a little 1, 2, 3. So the 1, 2, 3 is when I get an igniting bar and then a resting bar. And then I'm looking for a continuation move off of that resting bar. So I just call it the 1, 2, 3. It is into that 200 on the weekly, but off that trigger, it would break out of it and recovering on that monthly there. So Val is kind of interesting as a 1, 2, 3. I found a lot of 1, 2, 3s. CLB is a 1, 2, 3. This is coming off of earnings. It will be popping into an area of resistance and then has that 20 on the weekly. So I don't know how well that would follow through. OIS also has a little 1, 2, 3, but this is breaking out of that weekly 200 and the 20 on the monthly looks okay. So again, these are energy, so I don't know how well these will go. And then Snowflake looks higher, just bullish all around. It does have earnings coming up, not this week though. So I was thinking calls, but now that earnings is coming up, maybe more as shares if I were to do this. So we'll see how that kind of looks. TLS is very interesting. So this has a 1, 2, 3 on the monthly, base breakout on the weekly and the daily, and has room to go. So this one I may do. So this has till $11. So this would be over 765, and then I would put the stop under 664. So around like $1 stops. Call it 660, dollar and some change. So I think that is something I will be looking to do tomorrow, the TLS. CrowdStrike looks bullish overall. Did this report? No, it will be reporting. Not this week though. CMPO also kind of like that TLS, kind of a base breakout on the daily and the weekly, little 1, 2, 3 action on the monthly. So that also is interesting higher on the CMPO. And then the PSTG, a bit more sloppy, very similar also. 1, 2, 3, but not much of a base. So probably won't be doing much with that. CRS also has a 1, 2, 3 on the daily. This one's a higher price stock. This one did report already, and it's just all out bullish. So I'm thinking to maybe buy some calls on this since it is on the higher price side and maybe go bar by bar. So bar by bar meaning if I do get a proper trigger, given that it doesn't gap up tomorrow, then let's say it opens up flat, then if it does trigger, I may get some calls in. And then every bar that closes, I'm just going to raise my stop to under that bar's low on the CRS. But I'll see where it opens up tomorrow. And then XCRS, healthcare, base breakout on the daily, has a 1, 2, 3 on the weekly. So XCRS, also very interesting. So I'll see about that. LTM has like a weekly buy setup. And this would be a secondary entry. So it already triggered a buy setup on this week, but that was a deep pullback on the daily. But now it's basing and holding above a curling 20 on the weekly. So that's kind of interesting for a long industrial sector. Winnebago, this was from the gaps list and looks just like it bottomed, the Winnebago, and has room, I think, to $48 if it really wants to run up here. Now, this one isn't quite a 1, 2, 3. This one had an inside range bar on that second day, but recovered back up. So the only way that would make sense to do this is over like 41 with the stop being under 39.70. So kind of aggressive, given that, of course, it doesn't break under that bar or above or below Friday's bar. So if it opens up flat, Winnebago does look higher to about $48 if it wants to go. So I'll see where that kind of opens up. Las Vegas has like a 1, 2, 3 also. Retesting the prior highs. Looks like it wants to break out. There's more long-term resistance there. So I don't know how well that will follow through. The AMN looked interesting because it's kind of holding up above that 20 now. And it's starting to rise up. And this is what's called a pinch play, where it pinches out of a 200 and the 20. So I'm kind of eyeing that. It has like this rounding bottom on the weekly, rounding bottom on the monthly with like a topping or a bottoming tail. So looks interesting. I don't know how well this will pop because there is a lot of things in the way to the left there. But initially does look higher to like $29 or so. So I'll keep an eye on that. The gauze has a weekly buy setup that's triggering. So here it is. And now it's on the daily, given an igniting bar. Now if I get a resting bar and then a 1, 2, 3, we'll see how that kind of cooks up, how that 20 looks. So we'll just keep an eye on some of these. NMRA, also kind of a 1, 2, 3, not quite a 1, 2, 3. That's not quite a resting bar, but it's kind of that idea. Breaking out of that weekly and the monthly. It just looks higher. Probably not going to do anything with it, but VLY also looks like it bottomed. I mean, if I look at the weekly, so here it is running up to that 200, pulls back, breaks the 20, bounces, gets rejected off the 200, breaks the 20, pulls back, and now holds above the 20. Breaks out of that 200, pulls back right into the 20 and the 200 with a pretty bullish bar. So that looks like it's bottomed. Now, how does that translate into here? Not sure. I may look into some calls on the VLY. We'll see. because the earnings is past, right? Let me double check. Because the problem is Toss now offers estimated earnings. So sometimes it'll confuse me to actual earnings. So yeah, so it looks like reported. So I may look into some calls. BOI, this is financials. FSK looks like it's finding a bottom here. Got a big sell off, just complete dump, and then a reversal bar in there on the monthly. So kind of a bullish bar. Daily started to get fixed. So maybe some sort of breakout over that base. Just watching it for now. TW, kind of the same idea as the FSK, right? You got this big pull or sell off, reversal bar, a lot of volume there, and trying to find a bottom now. Correction, playing the correction into that 20. Deep pullback on the monthly there. So this one's kind of interesting, but this one has earnings coming up, it looks like, this week. So not too sure. I do like the TW better than the FSK, but this one has earnings coming up this week, so I don't know. CMTG also came out of the downtrend, transitioned higher and holding up pretty well, and triggering like a buy setup on the weekly, and it looks higher to like $4 initially as target. There's not much of a setup there on the daily for now. Live N, also a weekly buy setup that's triggered. I like that how it's holding on the monthly there and just recovering. Not sure, but just bullish. Something to keep an eye on. DYN. So this is kind of interesting. So that weekly holding above that 200 there. So it's basing. I don't know if it's ready just yet. I would like to see it base a little bit longer into that rising 20 and then for a breakout. But if it goes, looks higher to 25. So I'm going to eye on it. I'm going to keep an eye on it. And then finally, GTS. So this one, yeah, just all out bullish, base breakout on the daily. I guess has earnings coming up. So that's kind of the bullish list. There was a lot more, but I kind of trimmed it down. All right, let's take a look at the bearish list. Not a whole lot. So first up is MAN. This kind of has a base breakdown. Tried to recover, got or gap up, buried the gap, and now basing for lower, breaking down on all time frames, doing a 1, 2, 3 on the weekly. So it looks pretty weak on the MAN. The deck was from the gaps list last week. So maybe on a 1, 2, 3. See how tomorrow's bar shapes up. Breaking down on the weekly, rolling over and breaking down on the monthly. So deck all out bearish, looks like. GKOS, also kind of like that MAN, or more like the deck, I guess. Breaking down on the 200 on the weekly. And then the monthly rolling over, breaking down. And then a base breakdown on the daily. It is into earnings. So I do play earnings also. So I'll sometimes short or buy right before earnings, seeing how the picture looks. So maybe more as we'll see how these shape up. CDLX looks like it topped out. It broke out and now just failing, rolling over, pulling back on the weekly, reversal bar on the monthly. So it looks like it could pull back. Pretty difficult, I would say. But if it can go and drop, looks lower and has room to like $70 at least. Something to keep an eye on. NOK, is this like a meme stock? I'm guessing this turned into some sort of meme stock. Had a big rally. Yeah, more like a counter trend play, going parabolic. That weekly, just up, wide range bars, volume kicking up. Monthly into that 200, volume kicking up. Looking for a top on the NOK possibly this week. STM, oh, this is an ADR. So little 1, 2, 3 action, gap down, and then now breaking down, would be breaking down from the support area. Little double top on the monthly, staying weak under that 20. So looks weak overall. Earnings out of the way, but it is an ADR. And then Netflix is turning bearish. So gap down and now rolling over and breaking under the 200 and has room to drop and maybe correct to that rising 20 on that monthly there. I mean, be conservative and say 1,000, let's say. So I'll see what the puts look like now that the earnings out of the way and maybe do something with that. So that's kind of what I'm eyeing for this week. I think For tomorrow, I may look into the TLS, XCRS. I'm going to check out some of the call options and then see how some of these set up heading into this week. And then also, we do have FOMC this week. So if we look at the economic calendar, this is Forex Factory. So on Wednesday, we got FOMC, got rate cuts last time. We're expected 2 more. So we're forecasting 25 basis point rate cut. So we'll see what happens with that. We also got core price index on Friday and then some advanced GDP numbers, employment cost index. So some things that may cause a knee-jerk reaction this week in the market. So let me know in the comments if this is something you would like to see every week, market analysis, scanning, ideas. And then next week, I'll review any of the trades I may have took from the list and then also show you how I'm managing any open positions. All right, but that's going to do it for now. As always, I appreciate you for being here. Hope you have a rich trading week and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.